Today we're taking one of my very favorite quilt blocks and we're going to put it in an on-point setting in a cheater way. So basically on point means you take your block, you put it on point. But that can be really difficult. So what we've done is a cheater method where we add corner squares, trim it down, and it gives you the perfect look. And once I get started, you're going to totally understand what I mean and you're going to love it. So the first thing you're going to do is go to factquartershop.com and download the Cheater On Point Block method. And this is something great. You should print, keep it in a binder in your sewing room so you always have it. It's completely free. We've listed the most popular quilt block sizes, and this is the size of the block that you're going to put on point. So basically, we're going to be doing a 12-inch size today, which is the Rolling Stone quilt block. And we have a video on how to make this block already, and we have a link to that in our description box. It's 12 inches, so we're going to go and follow these methods. When we add our setting squares, we're going to have an oversized block that we're going to trim down, and all of that is also in the Rolling Stone Medley quilt pattern. So if you want to make this, we've kind of combined all of this into one, but we do have this cheater. This is a great resource for you to just always have in your sewing room, and I'm going to show you some tricks today, and I think you're going to love this method. And you can just pop in different blocks, and you could even make this a sampler by doing 12 different blocks that are 12 inches. So for this tutorial, the fabric we're featuring is by Minnick & Simpson. It's called Ridgewood, and this is what you would get in your quilt kit from Fat Quarter Shop. You would first go to the Rolling Stone video to make a 12-inch block, and then from there I'm going to show you how you put that on point and tips on trimming down, and then I'm going to give you an up-close look at the quilt so you can see how it goes together and how it really lays nice and flat even though it's on point. So we've made our first block, and if you follow this pattern, you're going to take fabric F squares, cut them on the diagonal, and then we're going to add them to the size. And I just want to show you, you can get that math from this pattern or from your cheater on point. You could follow the 12-inch finish size, 9 7/8. That matches what is in the pattern. So you'll move your block aside, and you're going to take 2 squares and cut them on the diagonal. And I would try to just make sure that you cut that straight, but this is wavy. So if you do this, that is bias. I'm going to put all these fabrics right sides up just to make it easy. And the best thing to do when you're doing this is to do 2 opposing corners, press, and then the 2 opposite corners. But the first thing you want to do is find the center of your block, and you can put a little pin or a crease. And this is a pretty important step in this. Then you're going to take one of your triangles, find the center and line up the center. Do the same thing on the opposite side. And honestly, this is a way to do an on-point quilt without getting frustrated, because it's a lot easier to make a block that isn't on point and then just add some triangles to it. I would definitely pin at least 5 times because this is bias and it will shift. Then you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam, and we're just going to sew all the way across. I am going to start out here and go all the way down past, and then I'll show you the next step. So from here, you're going to set your seam, press these toward the block. You could also press open. It's up to you. And if you finger press that down first, it makes it easier. Look on the back and make sure all of these are flat. So when we're done, we're going to cut off these little triangles off the edge. And I just wanted to show you, now it's on the bias, so it's still stretchy. So even though you've sewn it down, it is still going to have that stretch. So using starch before you start something on point is very helpful because it will keep it stiffer. Okay, we're going to do the same thing where we find the center of the block and the center of your triangles. And you'll notice when you put this down, this is going way more than 1/4 inch. So if you did this the traditional way, you would only go to right here. So we're using excess fabric, and I'm going to show you how we trim it down. And that is going to be the key to getting your on-point quilt nice and flat and even. And it'll be less stretchy. This time we're going to set our seams and press towards the background. Look at the back and just make sure everything is nice and flat. So now we have put our 12-inch finished block with setting squares, and we're going to trim this down. And you can see that this is like a 1-inch margin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of ways to do this. The first way you do it, I'm going to draw a line this way and this way, and you can see my diagonal lines on the ruler match. Then what you can do is place your ruler a 1/4 inch away from that seam and draw a line on all 4 sides. And as you turn, you want to line up this line here and this line here. And I'm using a friction pin because I'm going to do that before I cut anything. So the lines I drew for the first time, those are just visually for me. I'm not really using them, but I just like to really see where that is coming out and make sure that that's not diagonal or something crazy. So then I'm going to look and see that is 17 3/8 and 17 1/2. So since this one and this one are 17 1/2 exactly, I'm just going to cut those first. So again, 1/4 inch away, make sure it's lined up, trim. Do the same thing, so I'm exactly a 1/4 inch away. And then this is exactly 17 1/2. Now this one's looking like it's a little bit shorter. So it's 17 3/8 instead of 17 1/2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, the first thing I'm going to do is line up this line right here. So if I cut right here, that's going to give me 17 3/8. So I need to do a 1/16 of an inch over. So just a little tiny bit over. And we might have to trim that down a little bit, but we'll see. Do the same thing over here. Just move it just a tiny bit. And then it's exactly 17 1/2. So what that has done is I have exact 1/4 inch points here, and here they're almost exact, but nobody will notice. So now we're going to put 2 blocks together, and this pattern has instructions for table runner, small lap, large lap, and twin, and this would be your technique for both. So you can see here I've pressed this one toward the block right here, and this one has pressed towards the white. So those seams will nest. So I'll put those right sides together and everything will kind of nest right there. From there, pin at the top and the bottom. You could also just press these seams open and you'll have just a little bit less bulk. Some people don't like to press open though. So once you've got your sides pinned, you're going to poke a pin. You're going to put a pin right in that point, make the pin stand up straight, and then you just pin one side each so that it stays in place. And then you can add one more pin here and one more pin here. And then you're just going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam, and you don't need to backstitch or anything, but you do need to leave the pins in until you get right to the pin, and your blocks are going to look beautiful. The cheater on-point method is a great way to level up your quilt skills, and we've done all the math for you. This is a new tip for our channel, and I'd love to know what other tips you'd like to see on this channel. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you every Friday on my weekly live streams. Have a great week.